My name is Phil Watson. I'm captain on Bluenose II. I've been here for the most part my whole career from 1987 till now.
My name is Erin Grigg. I am the chief mate of the Bluenose II.
My name is Gabe St. Denis and I'm from Hawkesbury in Ontario.
My name is Emma Burton. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia.
My name is Margaret Sands. I'm a deckhand aboard the Bluenose II.
Bluenose II originally built as a promotional vessel for a brewing company, the Olin family, were brewing schooner beer. The provincial government of Nova Scotia purchased a vessel in 1971, and she has had a consistent mission since then to be an ambassador for the province. We take young people, principally from Nova Scotia, out to sea, give them an experience that will change their lives forever. And then we like to keep the history of the ship alive. We like to keep the history of that time in Nova Scotia and New England and the Atlantic provinces alive. I've done other things, say with Bluenose II here in Lunenburg, ocean technology startup company, towing drones for them. We had a project during COVID where we were towing a plankton net for the University of Cape Breton.
So we take people out for 2-hour sails. We do that a lot of the time, and they might never have seen the ocean. They might never have been on a boat ever. And so this is, for some of them, the first chance for them to interact with the ocean in any meaningful way.
A lot of the reason that people come to sail on Bluenose II is it's like their highlight of their vacation. They don't get to go on boats a lot. They're from the middle of the country. And when we get out there and we regularly see ocean birds, dolphins, porpoises, eagles, the otters, it's a huge thing for them. It makes a lot of the time it makes the trip just as much as the sailing does.
I think so many people don't get the opportunity to get out on the ocean. It's kind of a great chance for people to get out on a new terrain and experience life out there.
Bluenose II helps you experience the ocean culture in a lot of different ways. People are always so excited when we see porpoises in the harbor or seals or any of that. And I know in my first season, I was so excited about the seals, and I just remember the captain laughing at me when I was like, oh my God, seals! It's just like, it's so silly because seals are quite common, but for people who don't get to see them very often or don't get to see other wildlife in the ocean, it's always so cool.
We see lots of stuff in the water, but we're also seeing other things too. Garbage, for example, we do see float by. Lots of lost fishing gear, buoys, nets.
There's also plastic, obviously, floating even way out in the ocean. A lot of it actually ends up on Sable Island. I sailed out there a couple years ago and it's covered in litter because of the currents.
Sometimes you're at sea, you can just have, vast barren with maybe some shearwaters or seagulls or petrels, but don't see anything for a while, and you can mistake it for a desert and you don't realize the life that's underneath you. So we see sunfish, see whales, you see humpbacks, see fins. I have seen one blue in my life. Seen the odd turtle. Every couple of years we'll see a big turtle. Lots of porpoise. The bay here this year was full of porpoise. And then we'll see dolphins when we're further out at sea.
Seen sharks, saw swordfish.
Saw humpback whale off Cape Breton. That was the first time I saw one of those, so that was really cool.
We went by a couple islands this season and again last season where we got to see puffins. Lots and lots of different, seaweeds blowing around out at sea.
When it's dark, you can see phosphorescence in the water, and it's very common. Up here it's green, and sometimes, and this has only happened to me twice, a pod of dolphins come up on such a night, and if they have bioluminescent particles stuck to their bodies, as they're swimming in the water, they're glowing. So there are these glowing dolphins, and they hop out of the water and disappear into the dark and hop back in and cause a big glowing splash of water. They shoot around the ship like rockets. It's unreal.
When I was 16 years old, I was deckhand of a schooner going up the St. Lawrence, and we anchored off Trois Pistelles, and the belugas were there. And the anchor watch came and woke me up and said, there's this thing going on, I don't know what it is. It sounds like a factory. And we were in a heavy fog, anchored, and the belugas were fishing underneath the boat. So they were coming up and on one side and diving out underneath the boat and coming up on the other. It was absolutely magical, and I will never forget that. And since then, going up through the St. Lawrence at the mouth of the Saguenay River and seeing the life there. Traveling in marine protected areas here, there's whale sanctuaries just off the coast of Cape Sable and in the Bay of Fundy.
So I've sailed in the Canadian Arctic. Marine wildlife is present there, but a bit rare. One day we saw a polar bear swimming a 2-mile stretch of water to cross the thing, and we had a close interaction with the polar bear.
So when I've sailed across the Atlantic, I've noticed, when you do a little fishing off the side of the boat, the fish are getting smaller and smaller and fewer. It's not like it was 12 years ago when I first started out. It's a thing that I'm seeing in my lifetime, and I'm considerably, younger than a lot of people that are sounding the horn about this. People get really excited about like a mahi that's this big. And when we first started, that's something you would throw away because you consider it a baby. Like, we used to have offshore fish, this big plus, and we don't see them that size anymore.
When you have a resource that big that you have the ability to crush it, then you have the responsibility to manage it. So that original dory fishery, I think, was just a hard life, and not that it was any picnic to be left behind ashore either. I think life was just hard then. And you talk to the fishermen who were there, and they will tell you that they were all overfishing, all of them. We said it wasn't only the people, from other countries that came into the Canadian waters and fished. It was our own fishermen as well. And I think it takes a collective effort to come close to wiping out a species.
It's actually really convenient to be able to talk about this on the Bluenose because, we have the whole story here. The Grand Banks don't have cod anymore, and that's not a natural thing. It used to be that you could walk on it. That's what they used to say. Now you can't because there are no more cod. It takes time to learn the limits of what you're interacting with. I think that's important. I think that such sacrifices are unfortunate, but they're necessary so that people gain awareness about what the size of the pond is actually. Because until you know how big the pond is, of course it seems infinite, right?
Conservation is super important, mostly because people just need to understand that there's a stewardship that we need to be adopting. We need to be taking responsibility of our environment, and a level of care and association needs to be brought back to our environment. If we put more effort into conservation, I think people are going to be able to tap into what's happening in the world around them a little bit more. And that awareness is going to bring a lot of education and a lot more sympathy and action, I think.
Imagine how sad it's going to be if, years down the road, kids don't know what a whale looks like or a porpoise because they've never seen one. But porpoises, there's a few pods out in the bay here. We see them all the time on the sails. They're not uncommon, but we can't just think they're going to be there forever. We need to take active steps to help ensure that, because we're also taking active steps working against conservation at the same time.
There's still lots of gaps in our knowledge and understanding of the world because we haven't had time, energy, funding to learn about all of those things.
We tend to have a very local view of things, Canada's waters, Nova Scotia's waters, but it's all the same. There are no boundaries in the ocean, So, what we put in here, it might not come out here. It might come out in India or something. It's a much bigger machine than we realize, and we struggle to comprehend things on that magnitude, as humans.
I really believe that our oceans are just the heartbeat of our world. We came from them, so much of our food comes from them. Our whole environment, it's all interconnected, right? So we need the oceans. We can't neglect them just because all we see is the surface level.
There's so much magic. The ocean is a magic place. There's all of these things living there and existing, and people so much want to be part of it.
We only have the one planet. That there is nowhere else for us to go. We have to look after this, and we're not there yet. I don't think we're even close to being there. It's an optimist that plants a tree he's never going to sit under. And I think in general we need to do that. We need to look down the road and plant trees.
Paradoxically, the more I hear about crashes and forest fires and bees dying, and the more I feel hopeful. Because to me the main problem is always getting everyone to believe the same story. How else can you get everyone to get on board that we need to do something about it, except by having them feel a bit of the suffering?
I'm really excited with what's coming up ahead as far as technology goes. I think there's some huge leaps and bounds that are coming as far as like garbage collection, surveying, protection, more awareness. I think there's going to be a lot of smart people that are going to be working on this very quickly because it's going to affect us all. So that does make me optimistic.
There's some things that give me hope. One is seeing wildlife, right? So seeing a tuna jump, or school of tuna jump, seeing a shark, seals, porpoise, whales. They're still here. They're still savable, right? That just means we need to do the work to do that. Working with young people on the crew absolutely gives me hope. You know, if you look at me as a mid-50s guy, you know, gray beard, then it was my generation that didn't do a whole lot of good for this planet, and continue to not do good for this planet. You know, we're in the positions of power and you know, not doing good things. We still are making poor decisions. So I'm hoping that the people that come through the Bluenose will make better decisions, and young people in general.
It's the simple fact is that do you want your children to have a similar experience of what you're having now? That there is a generation that's possibly that have just been born that won't see these things anymore. I think we've got a huge awakening with what's going to be lost very quickly if we don't act on it and start protecting them.
I think we're so lucky to live in the world that we do. Like, there's so many amazing things to see. And that's something we need to keep going for future generations. Like, we just need to figure out a way to balance out our own negative impacts on the world.